The Channel 4 News Conference. In order to bring you this special edition of News Conference, the McLaughlin Group, normally scheduled at this time, was aired earlier this morning, and we will rebroadcast that program tomorrow morning at 2:30. Our subject matter this morning is the sting operation against the Long Beach police. That operation was staged last month by Don Jackson, a black officer on leave from the Hawthorne Police Department, who says he was trying to prove racist police practices exist in Long Beach. It was taped by hidden NBC News cameras, both from behind Jackson's car and inside. NBC and KNBC News have shown large segments of what happened that night. This morning, to try to clear up any additional questions, we are going to run all relevant and even some totally irrelevant parts pertaining to the sting, including outtakes which have not been seen before. Only obscenities and police radio transmissions are being deleted. What you'll be seeing are the 3 camera angles of all of the events leading up to Jackson's encounter with the Long Beach police officers and everything that happened during the incident up to its conclusion. That tape is unedited. We will also show you some footage of the aftermath of the incident, though some of that tape is edited because there are long stretches where there relatively is very little action on the camera. Joining us now, we have 2 guests. We have Officer Don Jackson and Mike Hannon, who is the attorney for the Long Beach Police Officers Association. Now, we are going to start off with this tape, and I want to explain to you that what you're going to see at the beginning is the first camera angle. This is a stationary camera mounted in the back of Don Jackson's and Jeffrey Hill's police car, the 2 off-duty officers. And so what you're going to see is that camera angle mounted from the back of Don Jackson's police car, or from his car that is undercover. Hill is driving, Jackson is the passenger. Now, let's take a look at the tape. Okay, the car now pulls out from a parking lot that is at the intersection of the Long Beach Freeway and the Pacific Coast Highway. It's approximately 11:40 or so at night. And as I said to you, what you are seeing is the view from the camera that is mounted in the back of their car. It is a stationary camera, and it is able to pick up the sounds inside the car and also the sounds outside the car. They're going down the Pacific Coast Highway. At this point, there are no police cars in view. There is no police car near them or following them, as you have seen on previously broadcast segments. This happens before they have encountered the police car. Okay, now they're stopped at a traffic sign. There's going to be some conversation where they talk about some friends of theirs.
Black guy? You mean McPherson, the guy who was left? I don't want to hear his mouth today. You know, what happened?
All right, now pay attention here.
Get up there, go.
Okay, a police car has passed them, and he says, Jackson says to Hill, get up there, go. They are now continuing down the Pacific Coast Highway in an attempt to catch up with that police car. Now note here that they, how they're driving. They're stopped at a stop sign here. And now they have pulled ahead. The police car has dropped behind them. And what you will see are the headlights of the police car behind them, following them. And it's relevant to note here the driving of the car by Hill and Jackson, because a very important issue in this case is whether or not they were weaving. The officers have stated that that was the reason they were pulled over initially. Weaving means, of course, driving across the line. This is going to proceed for a while. You're just going to have to watch them drive. Point out to you again that the headlights that you're seeing there in the back of the car following them are the headlights of the Long Beach police car with officers Dickey and Ramsey inside.
So make sure you keep your speed right.
Now, you're going to see in just a few moments the main action where Hill and Jackson will be pulled over by the Long Beach police. Okay, the light has gone on the Long Beach police car. They're being pulled over. Jackson says he got us. Okay, the car's going to pull over here. You're shortly going to see Jackson get out of the passenger side of the car. Listen for profanity. He was charged with using profanity. We have edited out the officer's profanity in the encounter. Okay, that's Jackson having gotten out of the passenger side.
Come over here. Nah, man, what's the deal?
Hey, come over here.
For what?
Because I'm telling you to, that's why.
What are you talking about, man? You want to write a ticket, write a ticket. Don't mess with me, man.
Listen, I got the right to pat you down, and I'm going to do that.
Yeah?
I don't know if you got a knife or weapon on you.
You can pat me down, but don't mess
Right,
with
turn
me,
around
man.
and put your hands on your head now.
Why?
Do it now, I'm telling you to.
What are you going to do?
Put your hands on your head.
You going to hit me with that stick?
Yeah, I just might.
For what?
Put your hands on your head.
For what? Right
I don't know if you got a knife, you
a knife.
Put your hands on your head. Turn around.
Nothing, man, nothing. Nothing, man. I'm all right, okay? No problem.
Get the driver out.
Okay, you can't see them, but you can hear them. Remember, the camera's stationary.
Shut up.
Turn the car off. Slowly step out.
Okay, this is the NBC camera now, second camera angle. What you're seeing is a camera that's mounted in the passenger side of the NBC van, which has begun to pick up the action from its camera just after Jackson and Hill have pulled ahead of the police car. You're going to see them driving down the Coast Highway again for a long time, and here again I urge you to witness for yourself to see if they are weaving or not, since that was the reason the officers gave for pulling them over. You will also be able to hear some of the same audio from inside Hill and Jackson's car, the same audio that you heard in the previous tape, as it is being recorded inside the NBC van.
Just make sure you keep your speed right.
Jackson says to Hill, make sure you keep your speed right. All right, now the
guys.
okay, Jackson says he got us.
Right up here, man.
And the Long Beach police officers have pulled Jackson and Hill over to the side of the road, which you've seen from the other camera angle. Okay, the NBC van now drives past the incident and goes to a point where they will turn around to come back and shoot it from another angle. The audio of the encounter is also on this tape, though. Listen again.
Come over here.
For what?
Because I'm telling you to, that's why.
What are you talking about, man? You want to write a ticket, write a ticket. Don't mess with me, man.
Listen, I got the right to pat you down, I'm going to do that.
Yeah?
I don't know if you got a knife or weapon on you.
You can pat me down, but don't mess with
Turn
me,
around and
man.
put your hands on your head now.
Why?
Do it now, because I'm telling you to.
What are you going to do?
Put your hands on your head!
You going to hit me with that stick?
Yeah, I just might.
For what?
Put your hands on your head.
For what?
I don't know if you got a knife, you
I have a knife.
Put your hands on your head. Turn around!
The glass.
Man, nothing. Nothing, man. I'm all right, okay? No problem.
Get the driver out.
Okay, the van's pulled up.
Big problem. Shut up!
Turn the car off. Slowly step out of the car. Back to
We're talking to the driver, Hill.
You want to put a seatbelt.
Okay, there's a technical problem with the camera, though we are showing it to you so that you will see that the tape is unedited. You can hear Jackson. You can also hear Hill getting out of the car. Hill, the driver.
Walk back. Put your hands on the car.
Picture's back.
Walk back to my car.
That's Hill now leaning over the car. The officer pats him down. now, which will be a handheld camera taken out of the van by the cameraman, held on his shoulder as he runs across the street. He didn't have a chance to put his light on yet. As you can see, this is shot very quickly, and here he is now at the scene across the street.
Hi, gentlemen.
Jackson is accused in the police report of swearing in the back of the car and jumping around. There's the injury on Officer Dickey's hand from the glass.
In the street, thank you. Officer, can I ask you what he's being arrested for?
And now this is a search of the car driven by Hill and Jackson, by Officer Ramsey. Shortly, you will see an interview with an eyewitness, the only one NBC interviewed.
Jesus Ochoa. I was going down PCH and I seen these police lights and a guy with his hands behind his back, and when I turned like this, the officer shoved that guy's face right through the window. Busted that glass up.
Were you close enough to see whether he was fighting or were his hands behind his back?
Oh, his hands were already cuffed, it looked like, behind his back. And it didn't look like he was fighting. That cop just lifted him up and pushed him.
All right, thank you very much.
Gentlemen,
This is a supervising officer.
I ask you to take it out of my eyes. Take it out of my eyes.
Yeah.
Who is your boss?
My boss is Marty Ryan.
Marty Ryan. Who is your immediate supervisor here?
My immediate supervisor here is Steve Grace.
Steve Grace?
Grace.
Grace.
Yes, amazing Grace. Great. Can I ask who you are?
Sure, Sergeant Parker. Cold out here, isn't it? Heck of a night to be out here driving around in it.
Yeah.
Well, your name, sir?
My name is Sam Hurst. H-U-R-S-T.
That's okay. NBC?
Yep.
Okay, thank you very much.
NBC.
Appreciate your cooperation.
Thank you very much.
Can you tell me what the gentleman was arrested for?
Resisting arrest.
He was arrested for resisting arrest? Can you tell me what he was pulled over for?
Traffic violation.
What was the traffic violation?
Okay, gentlemen, you've seen the tape. We have a lot of detail to discuss, but let me ask each of you to summarize, if you could, briefly. What does that tape, Mr. Hannon, tell you? What do you see on that tape?
What I see on the tape is an attempt to antagonize a pair of police officers that succeeded. I see a man deliberately delaying and obstructing a police officer in the performance of his duty and getting arrested for it. I see a lot of histrionics, too, that are in the best Gorgeous George style, especially the big slap when he comes down on the hood of the car and makes a noise that at first blush you think is his head hitting the car, but obviously wasn't. It was his wrestler slap hand coming down.
And Mr. Jackson, what do you see on the tape?
I think the police department's assertion that I was acting or faking this incident is ludicrous on its face. Furthermore, this situation encapsulates what I would call police responses to all claims of brutality. First they deny everything, and then when they do get the facts, they distort what facts that there are.
Okay, gentlemen, we have, as I said, many details to go over. We will pause for just a moment, and then news conference will continue.
Hello, I'm Felicia Rashad, and I spend a lot of time in this environment. It's a place where dreams come true. Well, many kids live in an environment where dreams never come true. They're among the thousands of homeless, runaway kids that roam our streets. hungry, afraid, and lonely, they see no way out. If you're a runaway, if you're living in the street, there is a way out. Call the Covenant House 9 line. Get off the street and get on with your life.
For a miserable cold, what can you give me besides sympathy?
You could take a dose of Sudafed for your stuffy nose, plus 1 chlortrimeton antihistamine for sneezing, plus...
More?
Plus 2 regular Tylenol for aches and pains, plus...
Are you kidding?
Plus 2 teaspoons of Benylin DM for that cough.
I'm not taking all that.
Well, you can relieve exactly the same symptoms just by taking Comtrex Multi-Symptom Cold Reliever.
It's that simple? Then you take all these. I'm taking 2 Comtrex.
Comtrex, all alone, it does it all.
I think the question that will occur to most of our viewers, Mr. Hannon, is why do you think that the Long Beach police officers pulled over Hill and Jackson in the first place?
Well, you have to remember that I was timing it as we were viewing the tape. They followed them for over 2 minutes. You were saying that the car obviously isn't weaving, but you couldn't see that from inside the car. You don't know where the wheels were of the vehicle that camera was mounted in from inside the car. The second shot that showed the Jackson car going down the street from behind, shot from the van, is so dark that it's very difficult to see exactly where he is in the roadway. But you do see just before the officers stop him that he does edge up onto the, although not over, the double yellow line there on the roadway, and then moves back into the center of the lane, and then the lights come on. He was driving...
Let me just interrupt you if I could right there. First of all, I didn't say that we could conclude. I think it's up to the viewers to conclude. But secondly, I think it was fairly well lit. Are you saying that the edging of a wheel close to the line is grounds for pulling people over?
No, I'm saying that the whole driving pattern, driving slowly, driving from the center of the lane to the side of the lane, back to the center of the lane, over the other side of the lane, this is weaving. And you don't have to have that much of a violation to pull them over and see why the car is driving in that fashion. It's fairly typical of a drunk driver. I think the significant thing, though, is how else can you explain it? It isn't as if 2 black men in an old car in that neighborhood are unusual. That's like apples on an apple tree. You're talking about Pacific Coast Highway and Martin Luther King Avenue. That's the neighborhood. So there's no reason to pick on these men any more than any of the other cars going down the street.
So you, in your conclusion as a sort of a law enforcement expert, would conclude that there was sufficient traffic violation grounds, based on what you saw on the tape, to pull those men over?
There was certainly sufficient probable cause for them to stop the car and see what was happening. I don't know that they would necessarily have written a ticket, but there was certainly probable cause to look into what was going on.
Mr. Jackson, the point has been made periodically that this was a region of Long Beach where there are more black residents than in other parts of the city. Why do you think that you were singled out to be pulled over?
Well, black males in particular are subject to shakedown on the street when they're walking and in vehicles. I went to Westwood some time ago and I was arrested in an exclusively wealthy neighborhood. I went to a poor neighborhood and the same thing happened. What we're talking about is illicit and illegal police contact with citizens. Mr. Hannon's remarks are completely ridiculous. I think anyone who can see the tape saw that there was no weaving. I knew there was no weaving that night. I wouldn't blow this entire operation to lose it just because we couldn't keep within the traffic laws. It is not a violation of the law to remain within a lane that you were driving. We did not straddle the lanes. We did not change lanes. Now, what the officer indicated in his report is that I changed lanes, we were weaving from lane to lane, and they had to stop us. Furthermore, he said that I used obscenities. He said I was combative. All these things have been shown to be complete lies, and for Mr. Hannon to come here and make these assertions, he really just undermines the credibility of himself and the Long Beach Police Department.
I certainly want to talk to both of you about the point of whether or not Mr. Jackson used any obscenities, because we all heard the tape, but I'd like to continue on that point, Mr. Jackson, about the fact that it was a black neighborhood, you are a black man. Why would you be pulled over in a black neighborhood? I
had intelligence information that Pacific Coast Highway was a notorious area where Long Beach police officers were shaking people down in just this fashion, that they were lying in wait, that they were waiting for black males to pass through the area, pulling them over and harassing them. And I want to make this point as well. It's not necessarily so that we had to be black for this to happen. I could have been a biker and wearing an earring, and maybe the same thing would have happened, but I knew I had a guaranteed draw for a Long Beach officer, seeing that I was a black male in a car that wasn't fancy, and he just on his own prerogative felt that he had his right to stop me, which was completely illegal.
Mr. Hannon, on the point of the obscenity allegedly used by Mr. Jackson at the scene, did you hear any obscenity yourself by Mr. Jackson?
Not on your tape, I didn't. But that doesn't mean there wasn't any obscenity. That just means that there wasn't any on your tape.
So, in other words, you think that he might have been, what, talking under his breath, or?
Well, who knows? I wasn't there. You weren't there either. The significant part, though, is not the obscenities, because Mr. Jackson, the criminal charges filed against Mr. Jackson have nothing to do with any obscenities. The criminal charges filed against Mr. Jackson are one single count of violation of Section 148 of the California Penal Code, and that is resisting, obstructing, or delaying a police officer in the performance of his duty. The Sergeant Parker said resisting arrest. Well, that's the kind of shorthand form for it. The actual section says resist or obstruct or delay. And he was obviously obstructing and delaying these officers in their attempt to investigate the traffic violation and talk to the driver of the car.
Why is the profanity question not relevant? Because, after all, he was accused in the police report of using offensive language, and it is specified, quote by quote. It's obviously language we won't use here on the broadcast. And so, given that the officers reported that it took place, isn't it important to find out whether the officers were accurately reflecting what happened there?
Well, that's why we have trials, and I'm sure that Mr. Jackson's attorney will bring these points up when he comes to trial. But the problem is that you're talking about something that does not pertain directly to that trial. The only charge Mr. Jackson is charged with is the charge for the offense that you saw him clearly commit on the tape, which is not a charge that he was using obscenities.
I can see that Mr. Jackson wants to respond, but we're just going to pause for another moment, and then news conference will continue.
Hello, I'm Jacqueline Smith. All year I've been asking you to support the Crippled Children's Society. Now I want to say thanks. You have made a difference. You have helped pay for a wheelchair for a child who can't walk, a campership for a handicapped boy or girl who has never been away from home, speech therapy for a child born with a cleft palate, or daycare for a disabled youngster whose parents must work. You have made it happen by giving to the Crippled Children's Society. We thank you.
You might expect a guy who flies a jet like this to drive a jet like this, the Mazda MX-6 GT. If you also expect it to fly through the wide open spaces, you're right. But you probably don't expect to find all this wide open space inside. I guess that makes it the one sports coupe which flies in the face of convention.
Now, special incentives mean you can save up to $500. See your dealer today.
May Company brings you the Bissell Steam Team, the Power Steamer, and the Steam Mate. You can power clean. The Power Steamer shoots hot formula deep into carpet. Strong suction pulls out liquid and dirt. Cleans up like a dream. And the Steam Mate is a portable, professional-style cleaning machine. Fast for spots and spills. Bissell Steam Team. It's the Clean Team, the Power Steamer for all your big jobs, or the Steam Mate for small area spots and spills. Get yours specially priced at May Company.
There are some things you shouldn't start your day without.
This is Today in L.A. Good morning. It's 6:30 and things are warming up some. We're hitting
good company.
Now looking ahead to some things happening today in L.A.
The latest information.
We've got an increase in clouds, and that means, yes, a chance of rain again today.
If your commute puts you onto the San Diego freeway, it's a real mess. Let's get the
And Today in L.A.
That's our news. Thanks for watching.
The Today Show is up next.
Mornings at 6:30 on Channel 4.
Mr. Jackson, Mr. Hannon's talking about the fact that you were accused of interfering with an officer and resisting. There certainly are questions to be asked about your demeanor at the scene. You got out of the car, which I'd like to ask you about in a minute, though not right this very second, and you had an agitated tone of voice. You had excitement in your voice. I don't know how you would describe it. They have described it as hostile. Why did you assume that tone of voice when responding to the officer as he was approaching the car? Because the average person out there would be reluctant to address, I think, a police officer in that way.
Certainly so. My point was to bring credibility not only to the issue of the stop, but as well conduct during stops by police officers when they contact minority citizens or poor whites. What we run into is that merely reaching for your wallet can get you 5 bullets in the back. reaching into the glove box can also get you the same results. What I wanted to point out is that providing unusual circumstances on his face is not enough for an officer to engage in brutal acts against a citizen. I could have been epileptic and started fidgeting around the curb. I could have had a lot of problems, medical or related to drugs or something, that would not be provocation for this officer to use the type of force that he used with me. Furthermore, I'd like to get back to Mr. Hannon's comments about the police report. That really is just as startling as anything has come out of this situation, and that on the one hand, they say how important it was that the officer had probable cause to stop me, yet on the other hand, they want to dismiss aspects of the police report by saying that they don't count. It absolutely does count when an officer fraudulently makes commentary in his report, when he writes a narrative that he knows is erroneous, which he knows is a bold-faced lie, and it's worse for Mr. Hannon to come here and support that lie. How many times are the Long Beach Police Department and their representatives going to distort reality? Now he's going to the point that maybe there's more tape. There is no more tape. The police officers came out here and protested because they said there was something hidden, that something was being edited. There is no editing. This wasn't fixed. The only thing on that tape is misconduct, and until they face up to that, they're going to continue to lose credibility with the public.
Just to follow up on that point, though, about your demeanor at the site, obviously several law enforcement people, you've read all this in the paper, have said that you were provocative, that an officer in a strange situation, encountering a strange person on a dark street on a late-at-night, Saturday night situation, might feel threatened by someone who's standing there shouting at him, as you appeared to be doing. Wouldn't you, as a police officer, feel fearful, perhaps, in that situation, as Officer Dickey said he did?
Well, first of all, the Supreme Court has made a ruling on citizen contacts with the police with regard to the issue of how people speak to the police. And they have made the ruling that people are allowed a wide range of conduct, particularly with even cursing the officer. Now, clearly here I didn't curse the officer. My voice was raised. But certainly after I was detained and handcuffed, there was no reason for him to bash my head into the hood. There was no reason for him to take my middle fingers and bend them back to my wrist. And there was no reason for him to shove my head through the window. But again, the police representatives are going to distort this as many ways as possible, and it's not going to bring the truth forth. It's only going to bring anger and resentment on the part of people who want to respect Long Beach police officers.
Isn't it amazing that this man whose head allegedly got bashed on the hood didn't have a scratch, didn't have a bruise, didn't have a smudge on his face? That was seen not only on your television show in the news conference he held shortly after, but Commander Thomas of the Long Beach Police Department, a black man, interviewed him in the jail shortly after his arrest and verifies that he had no marks whatsoever on his head or face. Now, what he did do when he came down on that hood, and you'll see it in the shot from the van, is he raises his right arm, which is not handcuffed, and slams it down on the hood in the best Baron Leone Gorgeous George tradition and makes that big thump. His head didn't hit the hood. His arm deliberately hit the hood, and then he laid his face on his hand.
Is that true, Mr. Jackson?
No, again, we're getting into the ridiculous aspects of their assertions.
Look at it on the tape.
Well, let me speak to Ms. Douglas first. First of all, I have a very strong faith in God, in Jesus Christ, and I'm not a religious fundamentalist, but I do believe that miracles like this can happen. So I won't discount this issue. I understand that they're raising it, that I didn't get injured, but other miracles have happened, and I don't think that that on its face is enough to reduce this officer's activity to not being misconduct. Furthermore, what he is saying in terms of whether I went out here and put on a wrestling exhibition can clearly be addressed by the other witnesses who were out there. There was a young man that walked up, saw the officer shove my head through the window. I had indicated to the news crew that I didn't want them to intercede unless it got out of hand. They were actually running across the street because they knew the situation was completely out of control.
Mr. Hannon, if we can show you that tape again, we will, because I think it's important to be able to do that whenever we can. I'm not sure technically we can accomplish that. However, there is obviously one of the more dramatic pieces of tape, and that is the piece of tape in which Mr. Jackson goes into the plate glass window. Let me just ask you, based upon what you've seen on that tape, if you would agree with the officer's characterization that Mr. Jackson lunged forward, pulling Officer Dickey with him into the window, which is how the police report describes it.
That's very possibly the way it happened, because as Mr. Jackson well knows, that's a standard maneuver when you have the suspect's hands behind his head. You grasp the hands with one hand and you put your knee as a fulcrum up into his back or his buttocks, and you bend him backwards, because it's the bending him backwards that gets him off balance and gives you a position of advantage. You don't shove him forward. But somehow the two of them crashed into that glass, and I'm sure that the officer was just as surprised as Mr. Jackson was when that glass broke.
If we can now, I'd like to take a look at that tape. I think we've got that tape queued up. Maybe we can just take a look at it one more time and see what happens. All right. This is
his leg.
In slow motion, too. I believe this is not the right tape. Yeah. What we want to see is the tape of Mr. Jackson going into the plate glass window. And I gather that that tape is not ready for us now, but perhaps we can take a look at that when we come back, and we'll all try to conclude for ourselves. News conference will return in just a moment.
When you mix alcohol and drugs, the high can be unforgettable. Call Optimum Care at Western Medical Center. End the nightmare.
Hi, friends. Ralph Williams of Wilson Ford. Ask yourself this question. If you had credit problems, if you had a bankruptcy, if you had a car repossessed, if you got slow credit told by other car dealers you can't buy a new car, if I were you, I wouldn't believe it. I'd call one of our credit counselors because I believe they can help you, and you can drive home in a new car. Low prices, 89 Escort Pony, $64.88. You get the $500 rebate check. 89 Probes, $10,988. Here tonight till midnight. Come see us. Wilson Ford, Beach Boulevard, Huntington Beach.
Call the Breast Center Foundation for a free breast health care kit. Find out all the facts. Dial area code 818-988-1185.
How secure is your home security? Find out Monday at 4.
Okay, gentlemen, we were discussing whether or not the police report is accurate. The police report says that Mr. Jackson thrust himself, lunged for the plate glass window, pulling Officer Dickey with him. We have the tape, I believe, queued up now, and we will take a look at it to see if we can conclude for ourselves what happened here. We don't have the sound on here. Just the picture. Now, we also see, I think we're going to see it one more time here. And tell me what the officer's knee is doing also.
He drives his knee and his hip into my buttocks and forces me forward. He pulls me back and then shoves me right in through the glass. And how they can say that I was not pushed into that glass simply just passes reality. I can't see anything in there where I took a step or a motion which would have put me through that window, notwithstanding his push.
Mr. Hannon, what about that? It did appear as though the officer put his knee in Mr. Jackson's back.
Oh, yes, I told you. That's part of the standard move.
It also looks like he went like that, from what I saw. What do you think?
I don't know. It could be interpreted that way. It could have been the result of Mr. Jackson pulling forward. You just can't tell from the picture.
How am I going to pull forward? I mean, you know, you can't... There's no way to paint this. It happened. It's clear. The evidence is there, and yet they don't want to deal with it. They continue to walk around the issue. I was pushed into the glass. As a matter of fact, I went out of my way before we went out on this operation to indicate to everyone involved that we did not want to hang a good cop. We didn't want to go after a good cop. I even said if a good cop stops us and he's just making a few mistakes, we're going to let him off the hook. We're not going to burn a guy that's trying to do his job. This guy was so far out of bounds with what he was doing that there's no way to bring him back, nor any of Mr. Hannon's assertions going to bring him back into the scope of proper police conduct.
Now, wait a minute. He had an absolute right to do everything he did, and he followed the escalation of force in absolutely proper fashion. Number one, he had a right to talk to you because you were acting real strange.
Why were we stopped in the first place? We haven't even gotten to that point yet.
Let's go on to what you did when you got out of the car.
No, the stop was illegal. Therefore, any action following that is illegal.
That's your assertion. I disagree with you. Now that we've agreed to disagree on that point. As soon as the car stopped, you get out of the car, you're making a lot of funny gestures. You've got this hostile stance that clearly appears on the screen. And this is peculiar.
Is that hostile? With my hands at my side? According to his own report, I had clenched fist. Did you see my hands clenched? You didn't see that. And no matter, if you want to get in and edit the film, you might be able to put that in yourself, but it's not there.
Okay, if I could finish. The officer has a right to talk to a citizen whenever he thinks something strange is going on. He doesn't have to wait till a crime has already happened in his presence to have the right to talk to him. This is called the right to to detain. And you need much less probable cause to detain somebody than to arrest them. You just need to have some kind of suspicious circumstances going on. And obviously, it's strange when the passenger jumps out of a car that you have stopped to write a citation to. Why does the passenger get out?
Even if the passenger is acting strangely, for the sake of argument, would it be appropriate for the officer to push him into a window, as it appears happened on this tape?
All right, if we assume for the sake of argument that the officer pushed him into the window, the officer could certainly have pushed him up against a surface if the person that he was dealing with was struggling with him.
Did he appear to be struggling to you?
Well, there certainly was struggle going on, and it's very hard to struggle one man at a time, you know. And you have to understand another thing too.
Tell me what struggling you mean. Though there was verbal struggling. Did you see? I'm asking you. Did you see physical struggle in that scene?
I saw the officer put his knee up in Jackson's back and try to bend him backwards, and then it all went forward into the window. That's what I saw. Now, as I interpret what happened, Mr. Jackson, when he started getting pulled backwards, then pulled forwards at the opposite of the force. And since Jackson is a good deal heavier than the officer and a very strong, muscular fellow, I believe he's a weightlifter, he was strong enough to pull him forward, and they both hit the window, and then that window unfortunately broke.
If it's concluded that, in fact, he pushed Jackson into the window, would that be appropriate action for the police officer?
It might be.
There's no
What would make it appropriate?
When you have a suspect, if Mr. Jackson was in fact struggling, as I believe he was struggling, he pulling away from the officer and not complying with what the officer was doing, one way to get control over this obviously stronger and heavier man is to push him up against the surface.
I think if you look at the film, you'll see that Officer Dickey is probably 7 to 8 inches taller than I am, and certainly of a muscular build himself. So it's not like this mammoth black man was attacking the police and stripping him of all his weapons. I complied with everything he told me to do, and Officer Dickey continued to brutalize me after I was controlled, after I was already detained. He even went so far as to take the handcuffs and cinch them up as tight as he could on my wrist before putting me into the police car. And back to this other point about the stop again, the police do not have the right to just arbitrarily detain people. That's not consistent with the law. And certainly Officer Dickey stopping me for no reason, as we have seen in this film, was not following the letter of the law.
Gentlemen, let's go on to another point here, if we could, please. And this relates to your behavior, Mr. Jackson. You got out of the passenger side of the car. And everyone is saying now that every driver knows that you're not supposed to get out of the car, that when the police pull you over for a traffic stop, you're supposed to stay in the car until the officer approaches and then do what he tells you to do, because he is kind of anxious and you might have a gun and you shouldn't really even be reaching in for your wallet or whatever. So isn't getting out of the car an unusual behavior, and couldn't that have provoked Officer Dickey?
It might provoke him to detain me longer, to make a longer investigation out of this, but it would not provoke an officer with any reason to use the type of force and violence that he used. When I got out of the car, I was still within the law. Now, again, I've asserted that the Supreme Court has made rulings on this issue, that I could have asked questions, that I could have even cursed him, and I still would not be in violation of the law. Officer Dickey was agitated for a variety of reasons, none of which stem from my behavior. I think it's poor training. I think it's allowable misconduct in the past that he's probably engaged in. And I think it's the superiority attitude that police officers have with citizens that they contact who look like they're poor.
Mr. Hannon, I want to get a response to that, but again, we have to pause, and the news conference will return.
Beautiful carpeting, beautiful upholstery. Now it's easy to keep them clean with a Power Steamer by Bissell. The Power Steamer is a professional-style cleaning machine. Deep clean carpeting, spots and spills, and whole rooms. Clean upholstery, sofas, chairs, and in your car. The Power Steamer shoots a warm cleaning formula while strong suction pulls out liquid and dirt. It's Bissell's best, with many special features. Don't rent. Own your own Bissell Power Steamer and deep clean anytime you like.
$179.99 at May Company.
The born-again car.
Every 30 seconds, one is born again at a Mako Auto Painting and Body Work Center.
Mako. There's over 400 shops coast to coast.
4 million customers prove Mako not only gets the job done fast, we get it done right and at the right price. Polyurethane and acrylic enamel oven-baked finishes and body work by Mako's trained technicians
are backed by a written warranty honored at all locations. So if your car is an uh-oh, better get Mako. Your car will be born again.
This station is conducting a test of the emergency broadcast system. This is only a test. This is a test of the emergency broadcast system. Broadcasters in the Los Angeles area, in cooperation with federal and local officials, have developed the system to keep you informed. If there had been an earthquake or other emergency, the attention signal you just heard would then be followed by news, official information, or instructions. Be prepared. Study the section in your telephone directory that provides information on how to safeguard yourself and your family in the event of an emergency. This concludes this test of the emergency broadcast system.
Mr. Hannon, let me turn around the question about getting out of the car to you. Where is it that we learn as drivers not to get out of the car? Is it something that we are supposed to know? Is it in the law somewhere? How is it that passengers are supposed to know that they're not supposed to get out of the car when they're pulled over?
It isn't a matter of anybody not being supposed to get out of the car. It's the whole circumstances that you have to look at. Now, consider what's going on in the minds of this officer or any reasonable police officer when he sees the behavior that these officers saw. They're stopping a car for a traffic stop, just to talk to the driver. The driver doesn't get out. The passenger gets out and moves rapidly up to the sidewalk. Why is he doing that? Has he got a weapon? Has he got contraband in his possession that he wants to dump somewhere? All of these things are the kinds of suspicions that are naturally going to pop into the head of a police officer, and that's enough suspicion to give the police officer the right to talk to him. So then he says, in a very reasonable tone of voice, "Hey, come here." And does Mr. Jackson walk over towards the officer or come there? No, he doesn't do that. He stands there and argues with him in a very hostile tone of voice. So then the officer says, "I've got a right to pat you down, and I'm going to pat you down. You might have a knife or something." He explains to him what he wants to do. It's a proper escalation in his use of force. Jackson still isn't complying, so he raises his voice and he uses the profanity. The profanity doesn't sound very nice in your living room, but out on the street, it's certainly emphasizing that he means business, and emphasizing that with his voice is the next stage in escalation. It's better than hitting him with something.
Is it fair to assume, Mr. Jackson, that you're getting out of the car would make an officer nervous then?
It might make an officer feel that he has unusual circumstances, but this officer had several options. Number one, if he felt that I was combative or a threat to him, he could have called for backup. And no matter how many officers got there, I wouldn't be able to fight more than 2 officers, even if I was combative. He could have called for a supervisor and told the supervisor, "I have a guy out here who's uncooperative. What do you want me to do?" Or he could have told his partner, "Why don't you talk to this guy? He's a jerk." Now, back to this situation where he says that profanity is consistent with some type of control maneuvers, that's simply ridiculous. The same thing came up in a case with a guy named Saigon Penn in San Diego, where San Diego police officers asserted that their use of profanity and calling this young kid a nigger was consistent with their training, and that's how they were told to control people. That's only going to escalate the situation, and this is the problem reflective in most police agencies. We don't know how to de-escalate. We don't know how to use alternatives other than force when contacting people who don't do exactly what you tell them to do. Sometimes people can't hear, they don't know, they don't understand. I may have spoken a foreign language. I could have been from Nigeria or Brazil. They don't know that. So they don't have a right to escalate to maximum force by bashing my head through a window and slamming me into a police car because I propose some minimal threat to them.
Though, do you think the profanity...
They did have a right to search him, at least to the extent of making sure that he didn't have a knife or he didn't have some other kind of weapon. And they were being resisted and delayed in doing that. So they had a right to do that, and they had a right to use enough force not to meet his force, but to overcome his force. The penal code says they do.
There was no force on my part, and furthermore, when this officer contacted me, he asked me to turn around initially, which I asked him why, and I continued to ask him why, but at one point I turned and I said, okay, you can search me, you can pat me down, and I turned around and complied. Now, what reason is he going to give at this point for pushing my head through the window? What reason is he going to give for slamming my head into the police car, taking me to the back of the car and kicking my ankles? And in Officer Dickey's own report, he indicates that when I was in the back of the car handcuffed, that I kicked him.
Okay, you mentioned slamming your head into the police car, and we now have that tape queued up. Now, it's very, very quick, so you have to watch very closely. What you're going to see is a little bit of the action. That was it.
Well, you can see it real clear right there. His hand is coming down just and banging on the hood. That's what's causing the thump.
Well, I guess I didn't catch it, but that's just because we didn't have it in slow motion. So in other words, you're saying that you saw this hand go up and slam.
His right hand is free and it comes down thump on the hood.
I'm a wrist
what makes
restraint
the
and control techniques instructor. I have a certificate. After 2 weeks of training to be an instructor, I know what I'm talking about when we get to this issue. Mr. Hannon does not know anything about police arrest techniques. He may know it from a legal standpoint when he gets to court, but he doesn't know what happens on the street. Officer Dickey had me in a rear wrist-controlled lock, had my right hand behind the back of my neck. So what you're seeing is my elbow extended. You're not seeing my right hand out slapping and waving in the air. An officer who's trying to control a suspect is going to immediately try to get hold of both hands. And
show me what you mean with your hand.
My one hand, my left hand was behind my back. My right hand was behind my head. He was holding my hand right here by the back of his hand, or by the back of my hand, and took my face and rammed it forward into the police car. And this whole thing, like I'm Superman, like I bash my head through windows, and I go over to police cars and bash my head into the hood of the car. Who would believe this?
Well, is that a plausible explanation, Mr. Hannon?
No, it's not, because the officer doesn't have Jackson's right hand controlled. You can see that in the tape. If you want to run it again, you'll see it again. You'll see his right hand is free and that the right hand is doing the thumping.
I'm not sure if we have the ability to run it one more time, but so we'll just, yeah, okay, here we go. I guess we're going to see it one more time, that tape. Again, there
it was, right there.
It's very quick.
This is all after.
And now it's really hard to see, but you are claiming that he hit the car with his hand. Mr. Jackson, your detractors are certainly trying to portray you as a flake. And one of the things they point to is the fact that you were on a stress disability leave from the Hawthorne Police Department. Why are you on a leave?
Well, after experiencing over 7 years of repeated racial slurs and epithets within that department, I filed charges and a complaint to the chief against several officers. Instead of the officers going through any type of punishment or any type of investigation, I was ordered to be placed on administrative leave, and I've been on that leave ever since. And the longer that I've been active in civil rights issues, the further it puts me away from going back to my department. I'm completely willing to go back to work, and I'm awaiting some type of ruling on that on March 7th. Let me speak to another issue, though, which is also some background that we need to deal with. This is not the first little isolated incident of police misconduct in Long Beach. They have had a litany of abuse cases, most of the victims being white, who have been beaten, tortured, stripped down naked in the jail. They had some 500 complaints just last year. They've settled some $75,000 in lawsuits last year. How does Mr. Hannon speak to that issue? How does he speak to the fact that so many people who have outcried against the Long Beach Police Department are all wrong?
We will let Mr. Hannon speak to that when News Conference returns in just a moment.
It's easy to see why Mazda truck owners are starting to toot their own horn. They've got enough reasons. Mazda trucks are so reliable. They've been rated #1 in customer satisfaction for 3 straight years. Mazda has the best warranty in the truck business. Nobody else can say that. And when you figure this sporty SE5 is priced close to the other guy's base trucks, what's left to say?
Only this. Now get $750 cash back from Mazda at participating dealers.
beautiful carpeting, beautiful upholstery. Now it's easy to keep them clean with a Power Steamer by Bissell. The Power Steamer is a professional-style cleaning machine. Deep clean carpeting, spots and spills, and whole rooms. Clean upholstery, sofas, chairs, and in your car. The Power Steamer shoots a warm cleaning formula while strong suction pulls out liquid and dirt. It's Bissell's best, with many special features. Don't rent. Own your own Bissell Power Steamer and deep clean anytime you like.
$179.99 at May Company.
Rack 'em up. And how? A full rack of ribs. It's Love's great rib plate. Corn on the cob, barbecued beans, baked potato, the great rib plate, baby back ribs, or St. Louis spare ribs, or half a rack of each. Head for Love's and rack 'em up, 'cause
when you're in love, the whole world's delicious.
As a result, Mr. Hannon, of the news coverage surrounding Mr. Jackson's incident, there have been increasing numbers of media reports on various incidents of alleged brutality in the Long Beach Police Department. Mr. Jackson said that people have been beaten, tortured, and stripped down in the jails there, and that it's a brutal police department. Can you respond?
Yeah, that's nonsense. I am not a representative of the police department. My job is to represent the union that represents the police officers, and when one of these charges is investigated by the department and the department tries to discipline the officer, my job is to defend the officer in the administrative hearings and in court. We have lost very few of those cases. They're tried before a jury that is composed of the Long Beach Civil Service Commission, which is composed of a cross-section of Long Beach citizens. If you want a police review board, that's a police review board. And and after that, it goes to the Superior Court. What Mr. Jackson just said is simply a myth.
Okay, gentlemen, the disputed tape where Mr. Hannon says that Mr. Jackson hits the car with his hand. Watch here. Slow motion now. Well, there we go. One more time here. He backed it up. Let's see. Do we see the right hand come up and hit?
There it is.
I don't see that. This proves you can see what you want to see. I mean, again, this is not an isolated incident, and what happened to me could have happened to anyone who had contacted this officer.
I agree that what happened to Mr. Jackson could have happened to anyone, black, white, Asian, whoever he is.
I would say poor white. I would say poor white, or if you're not in a Mercedes or you're not well off, yes, it could happen.
One of the things that is significant here is that as angry as the officer was, as frightened and excited as the officer was, you didn't hear a single racial reference or epithet in this whole situation. And I think that puts the complete lie to the charge that this is any evidence of racism on the part of these officers that are charged here.
I would like to just take a moment and reflect back, though, on the police report and what the officers have described happened, to see if you think it's important, if it goes to the credibility of their version. They've said that Mr. Jackson used profanity. They've said that his fists were clenched. We didn't see that his fists were clenched like this. They said that he threw himself into the window, and you are willing to argue that at least that could be argued, that he threw himself through the window. They said that he used profanity in the car and was struggling and throwing his body around in the car. Granted, we didn't see what happened after the car drove off. There was certainly no video evidence of that from what we saw as he got into the car. Do you have any concerns about the credibility of any of the statements that were made by the officers in the report?
Well, I will concede that I didn't hear Mr. Jackson on the street use the words that that the officers said he used in their report. On the other hand, you have to remember that this was a very emotional situation, and that the officer's not a human camera or tape recorder. He puts down what he remembers. And, well, that's what it is.
Let me speak to the issue of the department once again. This is not isolated. You have a police chief, Binkley, who came in and has had to fire some 20 Long Beach police officers. You have a former chief, Ussery, who states that he can't even believe his own officers, or he couldn't believe them. He had 78 of them that he said would lie when there were incidents of misconduct. You've had a citizen review board attempted to be established, but there's no review board in Long Beach, and people are calling for one. This leads up to what we have as a pattern of abuse, not only in Long Beach, but in other Southern California agencies. And what we have on the other side is Mr. Hannon and the others involved in this issue who will do anything to deny accountability, to deny the truth. What you see on tape cannot be distorted by anything that he wants to say here. People are looking at it and seeing it for themselves.
Number one, I heard Chief Ussery's testimony in the federal court case where he made the statements that Mr. Jackson's referring to. He didn't say 78. He said that out of 604 police officers, there was maybe 20 or 30 of them that he wouldn't trust because he suspected them of racial bias. Given that racism is a cancer in our entire society, that probably makes Long Beach not much better and not much worse than any place else in the country. So let's not exaggerate this.
There was a internal affairs officer, I believe deposed, Heath, I think his name was, who said that there was a problem with some officers falsifying arrest reports from time to time in order to prove probable cause. Is that anything that you have seen in your own experience or know about?
I've represented the Long Beach Police Officer Association and defended almost all of the officers charged with anything since April of 1982, and I have not yet seen a charge of that nature.
And just a quick summary, please, Mr. Jackson. You've videotaped, according to the LA Times, something like 300 incidents of officers talking to minorities and others on the street. Is it your conclusion that they are generally good cops out there or not?
Most cops are good cops. Most cops are just trying to do their jobs. You have a few that are acting out inappropriately, and because you don't deal with those few, they've spread their cancer to new officers coming in the department, and that's what I'm trying to stop.
Okay, gentlemen, thank you for what I hope was an illuminating hour. I'm sorry, but our time is up, and our thanks to Officer Don Jackson and Attorney Mike Hannon of the Long Beach Police Officers Association for joining us this morning. News conference will return next Sunday at 6 a.m. Thank you for watching. I'm Linda Douglas, Channel 4 News.